Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are discussing chapters 76 through 79 of Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. We are in the home stretch here. In these chapters, the army sets off, Dalinar's army, and, a couple of unexpected high princes show up as well. Kaladin and Amaram have a confrontation that I don't know if it went how you guys expected, but it's a little interesting. And Shallan reveals some stuff and starts working with Navani and Dalinar on some of these projects that she's been wanting since she got to the High Plains. So there's some cool stuff happening here. I'm Data, and with me today is
Jamie,
Jack, and Joe.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. So yeah, 4 chapters this time. The last time we were reading 4 chapters at a go this book. They're going to start getting a little bit longer. So what did you guys think of these 4 chapters?
Yeah, I mean, these were pretty good. I'm glad. I'm going to jump straight into Shallan and Dalinar having a conversation. That was really cool. I'm glad that we got that. I did not see the apology going the way that it did, but I loved it. I thought that was very cool. Especially when you feel like it's going to be, well, it's built up to be Kaladin. He's going to make Kaladin apologize to Amaram.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, yes, this is awesome. Dalinar coming through for the good guys on that one. Yeah, finally getting some characters to have conversations with each other, which is nice. It's great. I feel a bit for Kaladin now that he has feelings for Shallan as well. It's like, oh, really? Sorry, excuse me, just spraying my cat. Dropping my couch. Turd. And the last chapter as well, having Shin come back. And I can't remember what his actual name was, but when we started hearing like the unknown Parshendi at that point saying names of people we knew, I was like, what? Who is this? And then it all fell into place. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I'm glad we got to see him again. And his perspective on like what we've all seen is absolutely bonkers with Eshonai. So yeah, that's a bit scary, but cool that he's come back and surrendered. And yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, overall, loved it. Great chapters. Definitely excited to be coming to the pointy end of the book now.
I knew if anyone would appreciate people like Shallan in particular, finally just sitting down and telling people things and having discussions, it would be like.
Yeah. I think when she said the line of, well, I'm going to have to tell someone at some point, aren't I? I was like, yes, you are. Do
it. Please. If it had been yet again where she's like, oh, should I tell him? No, I shouldn't tell him. It would be frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his name is R'lain, by the way.
R'lain, that's right. R'lain.
It is easier to say Shen than R'lain, I feel like. But yeah, there you go.
Yes.
And yeah, what he says about Eshonai and like that he's recognizing this is interesting. That's pretty cool. The way it's set up.
I'd sort of built up in my head that like all Parshmen were the Parshendi, but it sounds like they're still separate. Like there was Parshendi who then took on dull form and became spies because they looked similar. They weren't. It's enough that you wouldn't notice, but there is a difference. Am I interpreting that wrong? Or they were all Parshendi? No,
I definitely think that there does seem to be a difference between them for sure. And the Parshendi are using these Parshmen to their advantage because they can disguise as them, but they seem to be different from them in some way.
Yeah, these chapters were really fun. The Amaram comeuppance moment. I mean, I feel like we've all kind of been waiting for something to happen. Maybe not as sweet as we would have wanted it, but definitely still awesome. Yeah, love triangles. I think we talked about this in a previous episode that we weren't, at least Dak and I weren't big fans of shipping and love triangles and stuff. But, it is what it is. And then Shen, Yeah, dude, I got chills when he showed up. I was like, oh man, it's happening. It's all happening. And I was with Jamie. I was kind of under the impression that maybe all the Parshmen were Parshendi, but it seems like that may not actually be the case. So I'm definitely interested to know kind of how that works. Like, what are the Parshmen if they're not dull forms of Parshendi?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these were really great chapters. Obviously, we're kind of picking up speed here towards the end of the book, so I'm just excited to kind of ride the train. But yeah, fun stuff.
Ride the walrus. Yep.
Yep, ride the walrus.
Yeah, and absolutely, it feels like this is we're picking up speed towards what's going on, or towards the big finale, right? So I agree. It feels like you can feel it happening. It's exciting.
Yeah, solid. Like very very solid chapters. I do think when we got to the apology scene, it's like really cool moment, and it's like now that it's all laid bare, we can sort of understand Dalinar's frustration when Kaladin called Amram out in front of the crowd, and Dalinar's like, I had a plan, stop fucking with this. But that also just calls into the fact that Dalinar, you could have just said, hey, I'm investigating Amram, I'm working on it, be cool for now, wink, or something like that. Like he could have done something to be like, but yeah, just to keep Kaladin pacified for a bit. But it just seemed like he gave him that spiel. I was like, look, I've investigated him. I found nothing, blah 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 blah. Could have just like said, hey, don't give up yet, or just given him some kind of hint. Kaladin's smart enough; he probably could have picked up on it, and then maybe we wouldn't have this whole Kaladin like conflict with like, hey Moash, here's your blade. You were right.
Communication, as Jamie has pointed out multiple times. Yeah, I agree. Could have fixed some things.
Yeah, wheels within wheels. But yeah, like on the whole, it's satisfying. And then Amaram just kind of scuttles away. I'm like, okay, haven't seen the last of you yet, but we'll figure out in what capacity later. And the other stuff, yeah, thank God, communication wins out. Shallan tells Dalinar, agreed. Also agreed, I thought the Parshmen were just dull form Parshendi. So I'm like, okay, what are the Parshmen if not that? So we'll figure that out. But yeah, my boy Relaine came back. Like I always liked that guy. It's like, oh, he seemed like it always seemed like there was a lot more to him. I guess, yeah, it makes sense. Like he was not a Parshman, like he was in dull form, but he was still active, I guess. So it really casts a new light on that whole bit where like he's seen Kaladin wearing their bones and how much that pissed off the rest of the Parshendi and how much like it like messed with him. For him to then, as he's leaving, just go, "You're a good man." Like, wow, that says so much. So,
right?
Yeah, but yeah, so okay, he seems in a decent enough position with the Alethi army right now. Dalinar at least appears to be listening to him, but he's still in very dangerous territory at the moment. So I hope things go okay for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically the enemy in the middle of their camp, so
yeah,
something bad could happen.
And it's like, it doesn't matter how much he's like, I'm trying to help you here. There are always going to be the Alethi who are like, no, he's a Parshendi. He's got to die. So I don't know what wrinkle that's gonna have. We will see.
Particularly because it does not seem like Bridge 4 is gonna. It's one of those. If something happens to him, it's over their dead bodies.
Yeah.
So it could definitely, some stuff could go bad.
We will see.
Yeah. I also like the mention of Amaram because he really does just walk away at the end, and Kaladin's like, wait. And
yeah, we're not gonna arrest him. We're not gonna chase him. We're not gonna do shit. And Dalinar's like, oh no, his rep's broken. That's the end of it. I'm like, is it though?
Well, he says when we come back, we'll have a trial and stuff. But apparently, in this society, like a shard bearer is above being imprisoned. Like, all right, good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's just from a practicality thing. It's like, oh, he's a shard bearer. What prison's gonna hold him? They'll just cut their way out.
Fair, yeah. And yeah, he says that. It's like he just cut his way out anyway.
Yeah.
But you also have to now consider the fact that the whole army has left, Kaladin is left behind, and Amaram is hanging around. And Sadeas. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the two guys who have the biggest beef with Kaladin right now.
Yeah. All Kaladin's friends are gone, except I guess Lopin's hanging around, and obviously Moash. But.
Well, Moash is friendly towards Kaladin, but like as we've seen, their goals exactly aren't eye to eye.
It's true. Yeah. So true. Okay. Speaking of, let's get into this. There's lots of fun stuff in here. One of my favorite things is that we are now, for this part, getting bits of the diagram for our epigraphs. And the first one is a bit that we already had. They will come. You cannot stop their oaths. Look for those who survive when they should not. That is from Coda of the Northwest, bottom corner, paragraph 3. And Kaladin is just laying here, like, worrying about Syl and the fact that she's gone. And the camp's all quiet because everybody's, like, getting ready to go. And the weeping has started, and we know that is, like, the worst part of the year for him. It's just depressing all around. It's all gloomy and raining all the time for 4 weeks straight. And so Lopen is hanging out here. He's going to help out while everyone else is gone. And Kaladin wants to go see the army off, watch them leave. And Lopen's like, you're not supposed to be walking, I think. And Kaladin's like, whatever, I'm fine. And they have what I think is a very fun conversation. It's like, why don't you glow a bit, Gone? Heal that problem. And he's like, oh, yeah, Syl's gone. She left me. And he's like, oh, yeah, maybe you should buy her something nice. Buy something for a spren? Yeah, like, I don't know, a nice plant maybe? Or a new hat? Yeah, hat. Might be cheap. She's small. If a tailor tries to charge you full price for a hat that small, you thump him real good.
I'm going to get this out of the way now. As soon as he started talking about hats, I just went, oh, no. Is Lopen just Roshar and Wayne?
Well, it's funny that you say that, Dak, because I listened to these chapters and he sounds like Wayne.
Oh, God.
I've never listened to them, I guess. How it's supposed to be like an Australian accent, I've heard. So how is it? It's not? Okay.
Not. An Australian accent he's not so good at.
It's an attempt at an Australian accent.
Yeah, I can see like flecks of it, of what they're trying to do, but it's not good.
Interesting. Okay. I'm gonna have to listen
heard
to
it
just
here
a
first.
piece of it. Yeah. From people who should know.
Australians. Yeah.
We were chatting with some friends just last night about the worst Australian accents that we'd heard in movies and stuff. The ones in Pacific Rim were up there. I love that movie, but my God, those accents are abominable.
I actually
and
never
Lost
saw it.
was the other one.
Lost was the other one, yeah.
Oh, who is it in Lost? Any particular one?
It's not the main characters because the Australian was actually Australian.
Okay.
Like when they're filming supposedly in the airport, it's like Sydney Airport or whatever, but it's not actually in Australia. So everyone who's got the Australian accents that are working in Australia, they're not good.
See, the only one I could think of off the top of my head, like I was like, Claire was Australian in that show, right? But I guess I guess she is an Australian actress. So if she'd messed it up, that would have been bad.
Yeah.
She's also bad.
Dominic.
I like her.
Dominic Moynihan, is he British? Or is he Australian?
Not Australian. I think it's British.
Is that the guy who plays Merry in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah. And he's
he's British.
Oh yeah, I always, for some reason, like he's Charlie in Lost, right? So he looks so different in the Lord of the Rings. I feel maybe it's the hair and stuff, but I always recognize when I see his face, I'm like, oh, that's this guy from Lost. He is British Irish apparently.
Yeah, that tracks.
Anyway, just so good to know. I got to listen to some of this audiobook at some point just to hear these things. Yeah. Lopen's like, actually, you might not even need a hat. Maybe just like the spread of a hat. That'll make it even cheaper. And then it's like Kaladin, his leg is messed up, and he knows he should not be moving around on it. He can hear his father's voice in the back of his head describing everything that he shouldn't be doing. And Lopen's like, hey, should we get a palanquin? And he's like, those are for women. Ain't nothing wrong with being a woman, Goncho. Some of my relatives are women. Like, yeah, of course.
God, Lopen.
He's messing with me. Damn it. And he sees this big. He's like, this is what I imagined when I thought of the army when I was a kid. Just like this huge army of thousands of soldiers arrayed together in gleaming armor and so on and so forth. And as they come out, Dalinar's army comes out. Lopen's like, hey, look, somebody else is actually coming. And so Dalinar has been joined by High Prince Royan, like his only ally, basically. But then Sabarial's troops start showing up too.
there's money to be made, and his fake niece is going. I guess he figures he needs to go.
Do you guys remember the letter that she slipped to into his the ledgers that she was working on for them?
No.
Nope.
I'm not even sure that I could easily find it. I'm trying to think of what
The keyword.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a keyword that I could be searching for. Yeah, I don't remember, but basically she's working on his ledgers and stuff, and it wasn't clear if she slipped it in as I want it to look like I accidentally put it in here, or if she slipped it in intentionally, hey, here's some information that I want to give you. But it was Yasna's notes indicate there's a treasure out on the plains, or there's something super valuable out there. And it was clearly, I feel like, meant to make Sabariel go, hey, maybe I should go out there. So pretty sure that's the genesis of this.
That makes sense.
And Dalinar and Royan are both surprised, Sabariel is coming? Sabariel won't even send troops on a close plateau run where we know the Parshendi won't show up. What is he doing?
Why are you complaining?
Yeah, Royan's I guess we should just be glad.
First immortality. Then wait, no, never mind. Yeah. That doesn't fit here.
I know exactly where you were going with that too.
That used to be my text tone, actually. And then I had kids, and it was not appropriate anymore.
Yep.
And then as Dalinar rides over to talk to Sabariel, Amaram comes up. He's like, "Is that Sabariel? Should we send him away?" And Dalinar's like, "Why?" Well, he's untrustworthy. And Dalinar's like, "Well, I mean, as far as I know, he keeps his word, but."
Yeah, it's takes one to know one, Amaram.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
He's untrustworthy. Well, he's never tried to steal from me or have me killed, so he's already doing better than half these guys.
Step up already, 100%. And Sabariel's like, "Hey, Dalinar, you look surprised." That's reason enough. Wouldn't you say, Polona? And he's riding in a carriage, which Dalinar just finds distasteful. The dude is riding in a carriage, and he's like, "Wait, you brought your mistress?" It's like, "Yeah, why not? If we fail out there, I'll be dead, and she'll be out on her ear." She insisted on coming anyway, storming woman. "I've got a feeling about you, Dalinar, old man. I think it's wise to stay close to you. Something's gonna happen out there." And then he's like, "Remember, if we find treasure, I get my share. I showed up before Aladar. That's got to count for something." Also, he makes fun of Royan for being a coward, so that's also fun. I don't really know Royan. The only thing we know is he's Dalinar's one ally, but so I guess maybe we shouldn't be making fun of him.
Kind of a fair weather ally, though, wasn't he? It took a lot of convincing.
I think you're right. And they look over, and sure enough, here come Aladar's army. And Amaram's like, "Wow, that I really didn't expect." And then we cut to Ialai and Sadeas, who are discussing, maybe while Dalinar's gone, we just take the palace and murder the king and take over. That'd be easy. And
damn it, Sadeas. Your name was not on the list of prospective characters.
Yeah, it's a very short section.
He's messing with the order. Stop messing with the order.
Sadeas, I like Sadeas is like, "You know what? We don't need to. If I'd known that Dalinar would actually go through with this stupid plan of his, we wouldn't have even needed your assassins. He's going to go out there and get killed. This will be easy." And Ialai feels a little pissed off that her assassin failed. She feels like this is a personal failure on her part.
Only because it is, Ialai. Only because it is.
Well, it would have worked, except Kaladin spotted the guy and knew him.
Yeah.
I guess maybe
adults.
I guess maybe that's the real thing is she should have known that these guys who used to work in Sadeas' camp might recognize a person from Sadeas' camp and should not have used him.
Yeah. To be fair, Kaladin was the only one who did. But
yeah, and only because it was a carpenter and he'd spent so much time next to the carpenters.
It was pretty hard for her to have figured out that would have become a thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of coincidences that happened to work out in this favor.
And even after all that, it was only because he shouted and Adolin managed to grab his dad and jump off the bridge that it didn't kill Dalinar. So it was a pretty good setup. And then they get a letter and she reads it and she's like, "Oh, you're not gonna like this." And Aladar just comes up to Dalinar like, "Hey, how are we doing this? We all gonna stay together? We're gonna split across some different plateaus. What are we doing?" And Dalinar's just like, "Why are you here? What? I mean, you made all these passionate arguments. You're surprised that someone listened?" Besides, Royan and Sabariel, the two biggest cowards, are marching toward. I'm supposed to stay behind. And he figures out that Aladar has been such a vocal opponent of him all this time because he was trying to convince himself more than anything else. And he couldn't do it. And Aladar, we know, has been one of Sadeas's closest allies here. So Dalinar's like, I mean, Sadeas is going to be pissed off. And Aladar's like, screw that guy. He doesn't own me. And Dalinar makes him promise. Like, promise me that you're here. Not Sadeas didn't put you up to this. That this is not some plot to abandon or betray me. And Alardar's like, well, I mean, would you believe it? He's like, I want to hear a promise. And he does. And Dalinar's like, okay, then. And Alardar's like, I mean, I could be lying. And, yeah, but you're not. How do you know? I don't. But if this is going to work, I'm going to have to trust some of you. So here we go. And then he thinks to himself, he's never going to put himself in the position where he's trusting these people so much that another tower can happen. But he'll trust him a bit.
Probably. Yeah, you still have to walk in front of me.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, by the way, you have to leave your parchment behind. And Aladar's like, okay, well, that's weird, but whatever. I don't care that much. I wonder what all these parchmen are going to do. Like, the entire armies are leaving, and there's the parchmen that's going to stand around in their empty camps. Maybe they can keep stuff clean while they're gone. It
honestly surprised me how well he took that. Like, I was expecting it's like, but they're the guys who pull all my stuff. Like, well, what do you expect me to do? Have my men do it? Yeah. The fuck? But no, he just kind of just like, sure, whatevs.
Navani did say, like, after everything's packed up, like, the only real difference it'll make is the officers will have to put up their own tents. So, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I guess I expected, like, the people on Sadeas' side, or who have predominantly been on Sadeas' side, to just, like, take that a bit more. You want us to do what the Parshmen do? Are you insane?
They probably have slaves, too. It's fine.
Yeah, fair point.
And then Amaram's like, I mean, why are we trusting these two guys, Sabaril and Aladar? And Dalinar's like, what, you want me to send them away? Aladar apparently has what may be the biggest army on the Shattered Plains now that Dalinar lost so many of his guys. He's like, you want me to send all of those guys away? And Amaram's like, well, think about how spectacular the victory will be when we do it all on our own. Which, that's just stupid.
Thing to say.
Amaram is either real overconfident or I don't know what.
I think we all know what. He's a dick.
And then Dalinar spots a guy over on a rock in the midst of the big Bridge 4 bodyguards, and thinks, speaking of fools, come on. And Amaram notices where they're going, and he's like, I gotta go and do stuff.
You know, the thing. I think Amaram didn't. I think Amaram didn't want anybody else going because he didn't want to have to hide like what he was doing from more people.
That's a good point. More eyes on him. And Dalinar's like, no, we're going to put an end to this once and for all. Let's go talk to this guy. And Kaladin is sitting watching the guys go, the whole army go by. And he sees Shallan, and he's like, oh, she's so pretty.
We come to that part of the story.
And he's like, oh man, maybe she'll look over here and we can meet eyes, but she doesn't. And a part of him wanted to hate Adolin for holding her attention, but he couldn't. The truth was he liked Adolin, and those two were good for one another. They fit. Perhaps Kaladin could hate that.
I hate the fact that they fit well.
I like that he has to admit to himself that he actually likes Adolin.
Yeah. That was probably the best part of this situation. Other than that, I actually flashed back to something I'd forgotten about from the end of Elantris, where like Hrathen is helping Serene escape, and he's just like internally is like, I could never tell you that I secretly love you now. And I mean, all of us were just like, is that necessary?
Ew.
What did that add?
Ew. Yeah.
Well, and the thing about that was it didn't come completely out of nowhere, but it came like 70% out of nowhere.
But also, it's like, you could have just changed that to, like, he admired her and respected her and everything, and it would have changed nothing.
Yeah. But
it's got to be love, Dak.
In this case, at least we built to it a little bit with, like, their adventure in the chasm or whatever.
Yeah, true.
And there's a lot of, like, doth they protest too much, like they really annoy each other. You know, You got that going. Classic story trope.
Yeah. I didn't need a love triangle here either, and it's unclear at this point how much of a triangle this could become, but there's like the seeds of it here, and yeah.
If only she'd look my way. I'm Kaladin. I'm gonna go listen to sad music while the rain pours down. It's my least favorite time, but also my most favorite time.
But also
This is Bridget Jones moment.
Yeah. It's like only my dead brother could quell my sadness, but he's dead.
It's like he goes to play music and realizes that he's on Roshar and they don't have MP3s yet. So he's like, Lopen, sing something for me.
He's like,
Do a little dance.
Yeah. He's like, Gancho, I only know like the one-armed Herdazian step. He's like, do it.
Do it for me.
Do the truffle shuffle. Come on, guys.
And then it's like they come back to the Shattered Plains and find out, oh, wait, did Kaladin and Lopen hook up while we were away? Yeah, it's like he just started singing and then one thing led to another.
The most romantic song ever, it turns out, was that song.
One-armed Herdazian step.
There's the romance that no one predicted.
Right? Yeah, that would be the shocker. I'm on board for it.
I'm sure someone on the internet has predicted it.
Probably. I don't know. Knowing the shipper crowd, probably it's a lot of like Kaladin Moash and stuff like that.
The thing I want Moash to hook up with is the tip of a blade.
Hook right up with that, friend.
We also get the note that Renarin is still in with Bridge 4, and he's actually like starting to fit in. He's still kind of awkward, but he's awkward with everybody. So, and his men are like, dude, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be walking around. And Rock's like, what would you do, great Captain Stormblessed, if you caught one of these men walking about with hurt leg? You would have that man beaten, once he healed, of course. And Rock left him some stew to eat while he was gone, because he's not going to fight, but he can't let all his friends go out there and for days with the camp chefs. Ugh, no.
Yeah, they got to have some stew.
And here comes Dalinar. And I love that Rock sees Dalinar and Amaram coming, and then he laughs and goes, oh, now we're going to see some trouble. Like, most of them may not know about, just what went on, but they know what happened when Kaladin went to jail for proclaiming that Amaram was a murderer. So
right. We were there for that. We remember that.
And Dalinar comes up, and he's like, you should be resting, soldier. And Kaladin's like, yeah, my men have already made that clear. Then you trained them well. And Kaladin realizes, wait, Teft is here, Scar is here. Who's watching the king? Oh, well, Dalinar, we told him we'd put our best man on it with his own hand-selected team to watch the king. And Kaladin realizes, oh, shit, they left Moash in charge of the king's guard.
The guy who wants to kill him. Yeah, that guy.
Once again, this all could have been avoided if we just given Teft the blade.
Or if we
never gonna let that go.
If we told Dalinar, hey, Moash is part of a plot to kill the king.
Yep.
That could work too.
Also, I did know that before I gave him the blade, so sorry about that.
Okay, that's an awkward conversation. Fair.
My bad.
And then Dalinar is like, Amaram, you say you never met this guy before you came to the Shattered Plains, right? And what about his claim that you took your plate and blade from him? And he's like, oh, Bright Lord, I don't know. This guy's touched in the head or starved for attention or what. But, maybe he was in my army. The slave brands seem right. But obviously, this is all preposterous. And Dalinar's like, okay, yeah. I think an apology is due. And Kaladin's like, oh, man, I have to apologize in front of all my men to this motherfucker. And it seems like he actually might do it, which I would not have given him the credit to think that he would, even at a direct order from Dalinar, actually apologize to Amaram. I probably wouldn't. We don't know for sure because all he says is I. And then Dalinar's like, oh, no, not you. And we find out that there has been this plan happening in the background with the Shard Blade. The Shard Blade that came with Taln from Kholinar. Dalinar was like, you know what? If Amaram's willing to kill people to get a Shard Blade, I'm sure that he would lie to get a different one. And so he had his personal guard that he trusts implicitly go out and drink with Amaram's men and mention that this crazy guy said there was a treasure hidden near the war camp. And after I knew that you snuck in to talk to this guy, I gave you the official job of checking his story out. And when you came back and said it was all a lie, I knew you were full of shit. Because you'd already found the sword hidden in this cave that we hid it in. And Kaladin realizes that during this discussion, Amaram has been starting to summon his blade, like the 10 heartbeats are going. But Dalinar is ahead of him, and a shard blade appears in his hand first. And so Dalinar, as he explains later, he was like, there's shard blades flying around all over the place. I figured that I should probably have one. So he took Talon's shard blade that they and bonded with it during that week that he was sick. And you guys remember, like, we during the conversation Adolin and Shallan had while Adolin was in prison, he's like, oh yeah, my dad's up now and feeling better, and he'd been sick for a week. He was secretly bonding this shard blade. So all the little breadcrumbs were sprinkled in there. But
Love the idea of Adolin just like snapping his fingers. It's like, where the fuck is it? And Dalinar's going looking for this. Poof.
Surprise, motherfucker. Yeah. This is although I'm going to point something out here, and let me bring up the Way of Kings, because I definitely did not notice it on my own until someone pointed it out. So I doubt anyone else has noticed it. Dalinar is ostensibly holding the shard blade that Talon showed up with, that got brought to the Shattered Plains, right? So it's described as a blade that is wider than most, with an almost cleaver-like appearance. I'm going to find the part where Talon shows up.
A buster sword, we get it.
Okay. In the description from the Way of Kings, when Talon shows up, his muscles glistened, wet as if he'd just swum a great distance. To his side, he carried a massive shard blade, point down, sticking about a finger's width into the stone. The blade reflected torchlight. It was long, narrow, and straight, shaped like an enormous spike. So these are very different descriptions.
Yeah.
Somewhere between showing up outside the gates of Kholinar and when the sword appears now in Dalinar's hand, these two swords were swapped out.
Well, and by who do we know who met Talon at the gate, who has been collecting stuff from other planets?
True. We know a guy. Although where he would get one to swap out, who knows?
Yeah.
Could it be who was talking about? Was it one of the honor blades or something had been stolen, or one of the?
That was Taravangian mentioned it.
Taravangian, yeah, maybe.
Taravangian made that claim, so it could be. I always got the impression he was lying there, just like making stuff up so that Seth wouldn't kill him. But it could have been a legit,
Best lies of a grain of truth.
Also, yeah, that's a good point. And so Dalinar's just like, after this has all come out now, why, Amaram? Of all people, I thought that you... And Amaram says, I did it, and I'd do it again. The Voidbringers are coming back, and we have to be strong enough to face them. That means practiced, accomplished shardbearers. In sacrificing a few of my soldiers, I plan to save many more lives. And Cal's like, bullshit, you just wanted the blade for yourself. Yeah. And Amaram goes, I am sorry for what I did to you and yours. Sometimes good men must die so that greater goals may be accomplished.
Boy.
And Kaladin's like, holy shit, he believes that. Like, he really thinks he did the right thing here. And Dalinar's like, take off that cloak. You're no Radiant. And Amaram takes off the cloak and walks away.
Yeah, I really wanted this. This was obviously an awesome moment, but I really wanted Dalinar to be like, "Oh, hey, Amaram, wanted to say, when he sees Sadeas, tell him I'm a coming." But that didn't happen. So
when you get to hell, tell him Dalinar sent you.
Now into the chasm with you, Duke.
They should have had this conversation right on the edge of a chasm, so that he could just like, this is Sparta, Amaram, and kick him over.
Yes,
that would have been perfect.
Kaladin, do the honors. Bonk!
And then he's like, I am going to need someone to climb down there and get that shard blade and plate, though. Like, we can't waste that. And then all the bridgemen are like, not it.
Kaladin would be like, it can't be any worse than the last time I was down there.
Yeah, true. Although he's got a messed up leg, he probably shouldn't be going down there.
Yeah, all right, fair point.
And then Dalinar's just like, hey, at least I have something to like fight off the assassin with if he shows up, right? Although it feels wrong to hold this. Maybe I just miss my old blade. And we cut back to Sadeas, who's like, that is Aladar's banner. And let them die out there, all four of them. Eli, I want you to start figuring out who would make good new high princes once we take over, to replace all these ones who are about to die out on the plains. And that's the end of that chapter. And then we get a cool little illustration of a white spine and Shallan's notes about the white spine. There's some interesting little things in there. Like, she notes, like, I've only seen one in captivity, so I don't know exactly what they're like outside of captivity. They're prized for their tusks, and people will carve the tusks into stuff, and they change color over time. So lots of fun little details about them. Also, you see, like, a picture of one with a person for size, and these are big old crab monsters. Like, I imagine them as, like, when they went hunting them, and people got injured, I thought of them as like wild boar size, but this is like as big as a guy. I would not go hunting those. I'm just saying. Then again, they hunt chasm fiends, so what are you gonna do?
Bet they taste delicious though.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, they're a delicacy.
Chapter 77 is trust, and the diagram in this is from floorboard 27, paragraph 6. One danger in deploying such a potent weapon will be the potential encouragement of those exploring the Nahel bond. Care must be taken to avoid placing these subjects in situations of powerful stress unless you accept the consequences of their potential investiture. So that's interesting. Don't know exactly what we're talking about, but
It's definitely some
we
high level
cut-
stuff, and he's saying the word investiture, which is not something that normal world people usually know about.
yeah, we don't hear that a lot around here, right? But we are in Shallan's perspective now, and she has a horse. It is a small horse compared to Adolin's real big horse. But that's because Adolin has a Rhyshadium, and all the horses look small compared to that. And she's like, you gave me a slow one on purpose, didn't you? Sure did. I'd smack you if I could reach you up there. I want to ride in a majestic charge as we begin our expedition. And he's like, I mean, technically slow speeds can be very majestic. And as she wants Adolin to like, quip back against her like a certain someone did. And he doesn't really. And she's like, I mean, okay, it's fine. He doesn't have to be brilliant or whatever else Kaladin is. And then there's a long like paragraph where she's thinking about how awesome Kaladin is.
Oh God.
Sigh.
That smoldering resolve.
Smoldering, huh?
Smolder.
The smolder, yes, exactly. So now Kaladin is Flynn Rider.
Yeah. And so she's just in her head, she's just going to be like, Kaladin just pops up after Adolin says something goofy, and he's like, I would never say that. She's going to be like, yeah, you never would you?
And then she's never ridden much, so when he mentions that, like, she's going to get sore, why would I get sore? Doesn't the horse do all the work? And eventually we find out she doesn't get sore, but that's because she can draw on Stormlight and is cheating. But
yeah.
And then one of Dak's favorite characters shows up. Gaz pops out. And
God, you're still alive.
Yeah. Earlier they talk about how he was missing, and I wanted to, before I read on, I made a note. I was like, what do you guys think? Where's Gaz? So when we thought he was missing, where did you guys think he was? Did you give it a thought?
Not in the slightest. I think the only thought I had was good.
Nope.
I was thinking he's secretly hiding among, the other people there, and eventually he's gonna be like in disguise, and he's gonna be like, Shallan, blah blah blah. And she's like, huh? He's like, don't you recognize me? She's gonna be like, Hermes? who is it? Who are you?
It's like he doesn't want to go on the expedition, so he hides himself. And he hears the Parshmen aren't going, so he dresses himself up like a Parshman.
Oh, wearing Parshman face? That's gotta be not.
And he's just like, hey, Kaladin did it.
Yeah, not cool.
Kaladin wore Parshman bones, yeah.
Parshendi bones.
Parshendi, yeah, fair. That's a distinction for sure. So he, I don't think he was trying to convince anyone he was a Parshendi by wearing their bones. That would be an odd way to go about it.
Yeah, he's like, look at me, guys, I'm one of you, running with the enemy.
Definitely making a different statement with those bones.
Yeah, it's a new fashion thing. We wear our bones on the outside now. Condra can do it. Why not us?
Yeah.
But ever since they came to the Shattered Plains, she has had Gaz looking for this book, and he stormed and found it for her. Words of Radiance. She's got a new copy. And she's like, Gaz, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. And he grinned, shooting Vatha a triumphant smile. The taller man rolled his eyes, muttering something Shallan did not hear. So Vatha is, he's kind of made peace with working for Shallan after finding out she had a shard blade and stuff. But, he's still surly. And then we cut to later where she's read some stuff about, read some parts of this book. And it's really interesting. There's a section on each of the different orders of Knights Radiant, but also it's really frustrating. And we saw this quote before, this wicked thing of eminence that led to the Recreants. And she's like, they're referencing it, but they don't say what it is. It's really annoying. And eventually Navani shows up and she's like, hey, can I hang out for a bit? It's hard to read riding on horseback. And I like Shallan's like, did Dalinar exile you to the coach to protect you from getting sore like Adolin did to me? And Navani's like, what? No. I've been ignoring things that I should not because they bring me pain. And so she admits like she's been, putting this off, ignoring Shallan because she didn't want to think about Yasna being gone. But she's like, a scientist shouldn't act like that. I want to hear about this stuff. And then immediately she's like, the organization of these notes is interesting. And then she's like, you think like an artist. I see it in the organization here. So it sounds kind of like an insult at first. Then she's like, no, I get it. You're an artist. You think like one. Okay. And then she can tell that Shallan is worried that Navani has come to like steal the project from her. And she's like, no, don't. It's fine. I want to help. I want to be involved in what my daughter was like so passionate about. I assume that Yasna persuaded you the fate of the world itself rested upon you finding these answers. And Shallan's like, I mean, yeah, pretty much. Damnation. I shouldn't have ignored you. And then Shallan's trying to convince, like, no, it's okay. I mean, you're a grieving mother. I get it. And Navani says, scholars don't have time for that sort of nonsense. And she's like, no, you're still human. We can't all be emotionless chunks of rock like Yasna. And I'm like, Yasna, the woman that she's grieving, should you really just throw out insults like that?
Yeah, it was a little harsh.
But Navani's like, no, yeah, sometimes she had the empathy of a corpse. I get it.
Little harsh, but not inaccurate.
And they have a discussion about how, by the age of 6, she was pointing out my logical fallacies as I tried to get her to go to bed on time. Which you're like, no, I kind of see that from Yasna. Okay, sure. And so Navani says, I want to help. And Shallan's like, okay, I would love your help, actually. And she sees you're trying to overlay Stormseat, this ancient city, with the Shattered Plains. You're going to need a point of reference. And she tells Shallan, okay, so we probably want copies of all this stuff and so on and so forth. And then she's like, I mean, if you're okay with that, you're in charge. Just think of me as like an additional resource. And then Shallan's like, okay, then yes, make copies, but also do this, and that. I want a surveyor to measure each new plateau we cross. I want the exact sizes. And if we had people on the plateau to the left and the plateau to the right, that would help too. And she's thought a lot about this. And that's what Navani says. She's like, I see that you've thought about this. Right. All right. And then she's like, why does Yasna want to think that this city is so important? And Shallan tells her because it was the seat of the Knights Radiant, and she expected to find information on them and the Voidbringers there. And Navani's like, oh, so she was like Dalinar, trying to bring back powers that perhaps we should leave alone. And she realizes I should say something here. Okay. She wasn't just trying. She succeeded. I don't know what Yasna told you about her soulcaster and where it came from, but it was fake. She was a soulcaster. Your daughter was one of the Knights Radiant.
This was an interesting time to confess this. Not only that, but like she doesn't say anything about herself, only about Yasna. And
right.
I was like, okay, so you're just gonna leave yourself out. But then I don't know if this was by design, because the next chapter, she does reveal herself. But I was kind of like, this is weird that you would tell her about her daughter, but not about yourself. But I guess you don't know her that well. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, this is really like the first nice conversation they've had.
Safer to confess about someone who's not here anymore than yourself.
That's true. Although it's safer, but it's easier to prove the other way around, because she's got to know that people are going to be really doubtful of this, and Shallan can prove about herself.
She can, but what would Navani's reaction be?
Fair. Yeah.
And she doesn't want her secret all over the Shattered Plains. I think, well, for her, she trusts Dalinar more, I guess, than Navani at this point.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? People seem to like Dalinar. We cut back to Kaladin, who is laying in the dark in his room.
All by myself.
And there's a knock at the door, and he's like, come in, and it's Moash. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, were you sleeping? And he's like, no, I was awake. He's like, just in the dark in here. All right. And we find out that Moash basically comes to be like, hey, here's the plan for how we're going to murder the king. See, we're going to wait till Dalinar's troops are engaged so he can't turn around and come back. And then we're going to pretend the assassin in white has showed up, and we'll do the same thing that you had us do last time, where we secretly lead him away and send all the servants in a different direction. And that way nobody will be around, and we'll just kill him and blame it on the assassin in white. It's all great. We couldn't have asked for this to play out better, and you won't even have to do anything. And Kaladin's like, okay, so why are you here? And Moash is like, what? I came to check on you, man. Is it true what Lopin says about your abilities? And like Kaladin's like storming her, Dazian.
Yeah, Lopin, he can't keep that quiet.
And he's like, yeah, I offended Syl. I haven't seen her in days, and I can't draw Stormlight without her. And Moash is like, we got to fix that, or maybe get you a plate and blade.
I'm going to be very uncharacteristic here and say something nice about Moash. He does genuinely care for Kaladin. I'll give him that.
Yeah, seems that way.
Ugh, I feel dirty now.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, Dak. I got notes here in just a second for what's about to happen, where I talk about how it just fuels my fire of no sympathy and don't like this guy. So
I assume that's like
you say the nicest things.
Kaladin says, I think it's about this whole plot to kill the king. I don't think a Radiant can do something like that. And Moash is like, I mean, shouldn't a Radiant do what's right, even if it means difficult decisions? And Kaladin goes, you mean like sometimes lives have to be spent for the greater good? And Moash is like, yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what Amaram said like yesterday in regards to killing my friends to cover up his secrets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Moash is like, oh, I mean, that's different. He's a Light Eyes.
Yeah, so this conversation is another perfect example of why I don't particularly care for Moash. Kaladin gives him a cause that a betrayer used, the exact line and logic, and Moash just shrugs it off. He's like, nah, that doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, he's like, what I'm doing is the right thing, and if someone else says they're doing the same thing, but like they're from this group that I don't like, well, fuck them.
And just coincidentally, Moash's eyes are light tan at this point, exactly the same color as Amaram's.
Yeah, so definitely think Moash, he's such a sympathetic character. We should really talk about how everything bad happens to him, and there's nothing wrong with him at all, and he's the best, right?
And I like Kaladin's like, I mean, you're a Light Eyes too, and he's like, Cal, you're worrying me. Don't say things like that. Don't say factual things. Yeah, like, what? It's weird.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Facts and logic and reason. That worries me.
But actually, Moash is here because the king sent him to deliver a message. The king wants you to come talk to him, Kaladin. Cal's like, what? Why? I don't know. He's been dipping into the wine now that Dalinar's gone. I'll just tell him you're too wounded to come.
It's a perfect line.
I didn't ask.
I don't listen to that guy.
Yeah, that guy's an ass.
All I hear is blah blah blah, kill me, blah blah blah.
Yeah. As well I should. That's the only thing that matters. Killing him.
And then at the end here, he has a second thought. Like, I mean, we can trust you, right? You're not like having second thoughts. And Kaladin's like, I mean, you said it. I just have to do nothing. Sure.
Yeah. And we all know Kaladin's the best at doing nothing.
So it's just random story. We did when we went to Universal Orlando this last week, and they're doing Mardi Gras there. And so we did a thing where you get to ride on a float and throw beads at people during the parade. It was a lot of fun. But as they're leading us backstage where the floats are before the parade starts, the guy's like, okay, just remember, guys, you're not allowed to take any pictures backstage, okay? And I was like, yeah, easy enough. I'm great at not doing stuff. And he's like, yeah, you're great at not doing stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'm the best at that. He's like, all right then.
You tell me not to do something, by God, it's not going to get done.
Exactly.
Don't mind if I already didn't.
Yeah. You'll wish I never did. And I didn't.
And the chapter ends with Moash being like, good, great, heal up, all right? And then he takes off. Our third chapter, Contradictions, is the diagram section is floorboard 17, paragraph 2, every second letter starting with the first. So it was in code in addition to being in his own special language. And it says, but they were left behind. It is obvious from the nature of the bond. But where, set off obvious realization. Like a pricity. I actually don't understand what that little bit means. They are with the Shin. We must find one. Can we make to use a truthless? Can we craft a weapon? So there's some possibly disturbing implications there. Did Taravangian somehow engineer Seth's truthless status from the beginning? I think Seth would definitely kill him in that case. Okay, we're with Shalon again. And she's sitting in a pavilion. The scholars all working on stuff. And her Vatha and her guys have grown really protective. It's like they seem actually proud to be my soldiers. It's weird. I thought they'd just leave after I got them their pardons. And Shallan likes the weather during the weeping. Why did that soft, gentle sound of rain make her feel more imaginative? So just like polar opposite of Kaladin. And she's drawing, and Creation Spren are gathering around her. And I like the bit from I like the bit here where Pattern's like, useless things. She goes, the Creation Spren? Yeah, they don't do anything. They flit around and watch and admire. Most Spren have a purpose. These are just attracted by someone else's purpose. A little Spren racism here. I don't know.
Yeah, feels that way.
Yeah, was not on my bingo card.
Right? And she talks about an experiment with different kinds of light. It's not super relevant to the rest of the chapters, so we'll kind of skim over that. But while they're having this discussion, Dalinar just walks up, and he's like, there you are, the one who's taken command of my expedition. And she's like, what? You co-opted my scribes and cartographers. They hum of it like the rainfall. You're at the Eru storm seat. How did you do it? And she's like, Navani did it. I was just, he says, you convinced her. And she's like, I was really just there when she changed her mind. Not giving yourself enough credit, maybe. So you told Navani Yasna had discovered the secret of the Knights Radiant. You're sure that she didn't mislead you or allow you to mislead yourself? That would be more like her. And Shallan is like, she's trying not to say too much. She's like, but no, I'm sure she did not mislead me. I saw what she could do. She didn't have a soulcaster. She was a soulcaster. And Dalar's like, this is just more confusing. Like, I thought I knew what I was supposed to do. Refound the Knights Radiant. The first guy I hired for the job turned out to be a murderer and a liar. And now you tell me my niece had actual power all along. Like what the hell? And she's like, hey, maybe you're not supposed to refound them. Maybe you're supposed to gather them together, these Knights Radiant. And he kind of just stares at her. And she's like, oh, shit, I have to say something. I can't do what Yasna did. This is too important. I can't just hide it. Is Dalinar the right person? I can't think of someone better, so okay. And she makes a little image in the palm of her hand out of Stormlight, the image of Yasna that she was just drawing. And he draws a single awe spren like a ring of blue smoke. And when he has to touch it, and it just like fuzzes because that's what her illusions do. They're just light. And he goes, this is amazing. This is wonderful. You're one of them. And she's shocked, like he has tears in his eyes. And I like her response is, maybe kind of? And he's like, I'm not crazy. I decided I wasn't crazy, but that's not the same as knowing. It's all true. They're returning. I love just how emotional this is for him. He's like, there's proof that I'm not insane. Finally.
And I can't tell anyone.
Now finally learn I don't come out of thin air. Oh, man, that feels better.
And he's like, I need to give you the golden cape. I'll put you in charge of the Knights Radiant. She's like, wait, me? No. What I can do is useful if nobody knows that it's even possible. If people are looking for my illusions, I'll never fool them. And he's like, wait, fool them? What? As that conversation had taken a bit of a turn, but they get distracted because someone's like, Bright Lord, there's Parshendi. And Shallan goes along, and he's like, this could be dangerous. Maybe you should stay back. And she's like, I appreciate that, but I could probably take a spear through the stomach and heal up fine without even a scar. I'm probably the most difficult person in this entire camp to kill. He's like, oh, that fall into the chasm. Okay, that makes more sense now. And she's like, yeah, I think I probably rescued Captain Kaladin too. I don't know how, but. And he asked her if she can soul cast, and because that could be useful. And she's like, yeah, I haven't practiced with that though. And Yasna said it could be dangerous. So. And then he's like, this is why Yasna took you as her ward. This is why she wanted you to marry Adolin, to like bind you to us. All right. Everything is making way more sense now. And he's like, I'll tell Navani about you, but nobody else, and I'll swear her to secrecy. And then Shallan is just like, I need to take charge. I need to Yasna this shit. She's like, you're not my king. You're not my high prince. You don't have any authority over me. I'm out here to do a job, and you're going to promise not to tell anyone, including Navani. And I love that he's like, okay, your secret will remain one for now, but we're not done talking about this. So it turns out that one of their scouting parties out on the edges got attacked when they came across a group of Parshendi. They lost all three of the men, but they took down one of the Parshendi first. But you got to see this. Something's weird. And so this is a new kind of Parshendi that they have not seen before. It has like long hair. Well, kind of hair. It's weird. There's several little bits of description about like the carapace and the bumps and so on and so forth. But basically, they've never seen one like this before. Also, some of the guys who got killed had burn marks on them in the rain. Shakiest thing I've ever seen. I don't know what shakiest means, but I mean, from context, I get it. I've just never heard that term like that, I don't think. And he's like, yeah, we've never seen this type before. And she's like, what are you talking about, type? And he's like, yeah, I mean, some Parshendi have hair, some have carapace. The ones that we met with King Gavilar a long time ago were just shaped differently from the ones that we fight now. So she theorizes that they have different like subspecies that are like for specific jobs, basically, which is a good theory, not really right. And then they open the thing's eyes and see red, and she's like, oh shit, red eyes, it's happening. And Donald's like, the red eyes are just a legend. Well, maybe you should look right there. The Voidbringers are here. Time is short, she says. And then we found another Parshendi. This one just walked right up to us. He's sitting on a rock over there, which is bizarre. And I like the Vatha's like, hey, Shallan, maybe you should head back. I mean, I know you got the sword and everything, but someone could still shoot an arrow in your back. He doesn't know that she can heal from that sort of thing. And I like her response is unlikely in this rain. So it is fine. And so they come up and a Parshendi's just sitting there on a rock. And they come up and they're talking and the Parshendi's like, Scar, is that you? And Leighton? And Scar's like, hey, it's him. He's changed, but storm me for a fool if I'm wrong. It's him, Shen. He ran bridges with us for months and then vanished. He says he wants to surrender to you. So, okay. We like Shen. It's all good. And then 79 has maybe the most telling of we're getting some information about what Teravangian wants out of this. Question: for what essentially must we strive? Answer: the essential of preservation to shelter a seed of humanity through the coming storm. What cost must we bear? The cost is irrelevant. Mankind must survive. Our burden is that of species, and all other considerations are but dust by comparison. From the Catechism of the Back of the Flowered Painting, paragraph 1.
Preservation again.
Yeah.
It's not capitalized, but it's just like that was the whole deal back on Scadrial.
It's true. Well, and it fits with what Teravangian has told us, that he's trying to save humanity, essentially.
Yeah.
And it says here basically that he's willing to pay any cost because the goal is save the species. So that tells us how far he would go.
Save the cheerleader. Save the world.
So we cut to inside a tent, and Shallan has gone, but Bridge 4, Dalinar, Navani, a bunch of people are here, and they're going to question R'lain. I guess not all of Bridge 4. It says that he didn't like how defensive the bridgemen were about this guy. He did invite their lieutenants, Scar, and the Horn-Eater cook they called Rock. Like, he didn't call him by name. He's like, that guy that they call Rock, that can't be his name. And so R'lain, like, he's like, tell us the plans of the Parshendi. And R'lain's like, yeah, I literally don't know. You were a spy? Yes, sir. For how long? About 3 years in various war camps. He's like, why are you answering my questions but nobody else's? And he's like, well, you're my commanding officer. Something is wrong. Eshonai's voice on the plateau that day when she met Adolin, she was my commander, but now I have reason to believe that everyone I know, everyone I loved, has been destroyed. Monsters left in their place. The listeners, the Parshendi, may be no more, and I have nothing left. Which is just so sad. And
everything this guy's been through.
Right? And we didn't even know what was happening until now. Well, for him. And Scar's like, hey, you have something left. You're Bridge 4. And R'lain's like, I'm a traitor. And Rock goes, ha, his little problem. Can be fixed. I love these guys. It's great. And so he explains that my people choose forms based on what we need. This job, the job of spying, required dull form, which is one of those. It looks a lot like a parchment, so it's easy to hide among them. Okay, what do the red eyes mean? He's like, it means our gods have returned. Well, who are your gods? They are the souls of those ancient, those who gave themselves to destroy. They hate you and your kind. This new form they've given my people is something terrible. It will bring something terrible. So that's more information on these gods than we've ever heard before, although I'm not sure that it's super explanative. The souls of those ancient who gave themselves to destroy. What the hell does that mean?
Got nothing.
And they're like, can you lead us to the Parshendi city? And he's like, my people. You said they're gone. They might be. I got close enough to see an army, tens of thousands. But surely they left some in other forms. The elderly, the young. Who watches our children? Which that's kind of heartbreaking, actually.
That's so sad. I was like, oh.
Also, just a really good question that I'm not sure has been addressed. Who is watching the children?
Maybe
It's for the children.
we know some of them got away thanks to that captain that Esh and I trusted and shouldn't have, and he turned out to be a stand-up dude because he got some of them away. Maybe the kids went with the ones that escaped.
That would be good, yeah. And so Dalinar goes, look, if what you're telling me is right, then we have to get there. I swear to you the non-combatants will be protected. My word of honor. And Verlaine's like, okay, I'll do it. And we find out the countdown that has been appearing on the walls during the storms. We're 3 days away from whatever it was counting down to. And Don was like, okay, well, we hasten our pace inward towards the center and destiny. And that is the end of those chapters. So definitely revving up a little bit for whatever's happening at the end here. Moving into predicaments, though. Where are we going? What's going to happen? We have 4 episodes left till the end of this book. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters and an epilogue is what is left in this book at this point. So not a whole lot. What do you guys think? Oh, and I guess I read you guys what the chapters are called, right? So next time we're reading 2 chapters. Chapter 80 is called To Fight the Rain, and chapter 81 is called The Last Day.
Fight the rain. Maybe they're going to get some information out of Relaine. That's something that Ash and I wouldn't have counted on, having someone defect effectively. So they're not going into it as blind as what Ash and I would expect them to be. So they actually have some time to prepare, and they have a bigger army than what they expected that they would have. So they're kind of there's 2 ticks in their column realistically from what we've read this week for the Alethis, really. A couple of advantages. So maybe we'll get a little bit more of that communication that we've seen this week, and they'll be able to come up with something to avoid being stuck in an ambush. What was the next chapter? Sorry, the last day.
The Last Day. Yep.
I'm gonna go with that's the last day before the last day of the countdown. So we're getting closer and closer to what's happening there. Yeah, the only real prediction that I think I have this week, and I don't really have any evidence for it, it's really just a gut feel. I think Kaladin is going to be able to stop the plan to execute Elhokar or assassinate Elhokar. I just don't see Moash and co being able to pull that off.
Okay.
I like I said, I have no evidence for it, but it seems too neat. They're gonna know. Like Dalinar and Adolin fought the assassin in white. They're gonna know what to look for, and I just don't see that working. But Kaladin is now in a position where previously he probably would have gone out with Dalinar. He's now in a position to be able to stop things or see what's happening in the camp. Sadeas has got his own plans in place. He presumably doesn't know about the plans to assassinate the king other than his own plans to assassinate the king. But I'm assuming that those plans are not one and the same, given a separate assassin. So I think Kaladin's going to be able to stop it. And what I'm hoping that will do is restore some honor and maybe bring Syl back. Maybe she's not dead. I really don't want to lose Syl. I like Syl. I love Syl. She's cool. I want her to come back. So if this conflict, he's made 2 promises that he can't keep. If he's able to then resolve that issue, maybe he'll be worthy enough to have Syl back. So I'd like to see that play out before the end of the book. I actually really hope that Kaladin and Shallan don't end up together. I like Adolin too. I don't have to force myself to admit it as much as Kaladin does, but I like them and Shallan, like they're cute together. I think they could work, but yeah, Kaladin, pull it together, man. Do something with that heartbreak. Yeah, I think things are going to look up for our Alethi army before the end of the book there as well. Still thinking about things longer term, but I don't really have anything to discuss today.
Fair. It's a good point you made about we've got a couple of ticks in the benefits column for the Alethi army now, because things weren't looking great for them, and now they've gotten a couple of advantages that Eshonai doesn't know about necessarily. So that's a good point. We hopefully that can kind of turn the tide a little bit.
They can't wipe out the Alethis. Surely not.
Yeah, the whole army gets wiped out, and then the next 3 books are about somebody else, Who's left? I guess Kaladin's left, and Moash and Elokar. And
all of a sudden, Kaladin is king.
Kaladin somehow becomes king. That would be unexpected. Yeah. Also, I agree with you that I want to see Syl back. I like Syl. I don't like the idea of Syl being dead. So I would prefer that she weren't. I guess we will see if we get our wish there.
I'm a little unsure of predictions this week. I'm very much in the, all right, we're riding the waves and seeing us come to the climax. Yeah, like there's a lot of moving parts coming together, like at the base camp at the Shattered Plains. Kaladin and Moash, Sadeas is still up to something. At this point, I'm actually more afraid of Sadeas' wife than Sadeas himself, because I feel like I have the strangest feeling that I don't know when Sadeas will ever get his comeuppance. I hope he does, but I feel like if and when he does, his wife will probably hang around a lot longer and turn out to be an even more dangerous threat. That woman scares me. Yeah, but so you've got like those guys all at the plains, potentially some Parshendi headed their way as well. I predicted that before, and Seth, I expect, is still going to drop in and see Kaladin at some point. So it's going to be a mess back at base camp. As for overall predictions, like something Relaine said, it sort of tracked with what I predicted last time with the riots going on in Kholinar. That being, like, Seth came back and saw that his people had just been wiped out and replaced with monsters. I get the feeling that's meant to be a parallel to what's going on in Kholinar. Like, at the end of the day, I think the Alethi will succeed in this campaign at the Shattered Plains, for better or worse, and they'll pack up and they'll go home to Kholinar and find the place just a ruin. So I think overall that's where that's going to go. Don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but I get the feeling that's going to be the ultimate, like that's going to happen to them. But beyond that, not really a lot else to predict. Not much for the chapter titles, except, agreed, the last day. That's going to be the last day before the countdown hits 0, so we will see. But yeah, otherwise, I'm just waiting and seeing on this one.
It really does feel like, I mean, that interlude ends with, like, riots starting in Kholinar. So that clearly, I agree, it seems to be building to something, right? So it would suck so bad for Dalinar if, like, by the skin of their teeth, they scrape out a victory here, and then they go home and it's like, oh shit. Like, yeah, that could definitely make for some interesting story. That's a good thought.
Could you give me the chapter titles again?
Yes, it is To Fight the Rain and then The Last Day.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jamie on To Fight the Rain. I mean, I feel like it's got to be specific to Elokar's, like, assassination attempt. And I agree with her. I think Kaladin, the reason Kaladin is, left behind is so that he can be there to prevent this, at least story-wise, right? And so he can be there. He's going to go, he'll go see Elokar. He'll stop whatever's going on. That's kind of his role here. And then the last day, I think we're getting close to the end of the countdown. Kind of agree with what Jamie said on all that stuff as far as the chapter titles go. But yeah, where are we going from here? I kind of like Dak's idea that, we fulfill the vengeance pact or whatever, but then you get back and it's like, oh no, all of these places, like, are basically in complete and total chaos because we were so focused on being out here on the Shattered Plains that we didn't pay attention to what was going on back at home. Like that would be that would make a lot of sense what Dak was saying with that stuff. And we also have, a portion of the interludes that kind of fill us in that stuff is going on in Kholinar that we don't know about that sounds pretty bad. And so that's definitely a potential for kind of an easy transition story-wise, is to kind of get rid of the Parshendi, but then there's this greater threat looming. And so we're nearing the end of book 2 in a 5-book series, right? So like we've gotten hints at what the big bad is. We as readers of the wider Cosmere have a pretty good idea that there are these larger shard forces at work, odium and things like that. So could book 2, potentially for the ending of book 2, I could see that setting us up for peeling back a portion of the curtain of like what the larger scheme is overall in the world, but we may still be focused on these specific characters more than an overarching like world destruction story, because we've still got quite a bit of content from here to then. So it may be a slow peel back, but it would be kind of nice, like at the end of Well of Ascension, where we kind of get like some insight, like something's going on that shouldn't be going on, right? Like there's some kind of force that's being released maybe, or that is, which I think we've already kind of seen that, right? Like you could argue that what's going on with the Parshendi is some kind of larger force at work impacting these people in a negative way that has larger consequences across their planet. And so since we've got that kind of piece already kind of in the background working, and we're about to, if the Parshendi and the Alethi like have a conflict, we're about to kind of see that firsthand. Maybe that could open the doors for like kind of knowing what the rest of the story could be about. So I know that's kind of like a lot of guessing and thinking and kind of pondering, but that's kind of the best I have right now, because I think we've talked about this. Because these books are so large, it's like every time we feel like we get an answer to something, it just kind of peels off into all these other questions about like what is actually going on. And I don't think at this point in the story there's really a way that we could answer that question with any real like assurance that we were on the right track. So I'm just kind of doing my best to kind of piece together what I could possibly think this could be going on a larger scale rather than just for the end of the book. Yeah. But thinking what could the end of the book have in it that kind of takes us to this larger piece of a story. But yeah, that was a lot of rambling, sorry, but that's kind of all I could really think of.
Well, you bring up an interesting point that I don't think we've actually touched on before. You said that this, in a way, the entirety of the 2 books that we've had up till now has been about this conflict with the Parshendi, right? And there's been other bits, we got Taravangian off doing his thing, right? We've got bits and pieces of other things, but the bigger story has really been around this conflict. And now it looks like that conflict is coming to a head. So what happens in the story beyond that feels like it will be very dependent on how is this conflict resolved here, or is it resolved here, or, what happens, because in a way we've been building towards this the whole time. So on the one hand, it's kind of nice that we may get a resolution that we've been building to for 2 whole giant books now. But at the same time, that there's a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 more books after that.
Yeah, we're not even halfway through this era. So like there's a lot more.
Yeah. But we're almost there, y'all. We have 4 more episodes of this book, and then we will get to some sort of resolution, as much as we ever get at the end of one of these books. Sometimes that's more, sometimes that's less, but I guess we'll see. I don't know. And I'm sure we talked about it at the time. Did we feel like the resolution at the end of Way of Kings was satisfying? Or, I mean, it's quite clearly book 1 of the series. So
yeah, I think for me, there was too many, like we didn't even have any kind of grasp of how these powers worked or what they did or So there was too little known to us in that book for it to feel satisfying almost. Like if I imagine that if I read that book and it had just come out, and I mean, I would assume maybe he wrote this and everyone who was a fan of his knew there were more parts. But if I was a new fan and I was like, I'll just read this book, and then getting to the end of it, I might have been like, well, what's going to happen? What's going on?
Yeah.
Because there's not like a super satisfying conclusion for any of these characters at the end of that first book.
Okay. Fair.
I'm inclined to agree with Joe. It's like the first book was good, but I think, yeah, if I like reading it knowing I'm going to read the second book straight away, well, straight away as much as we do read things straight away.
Right.
Here we are, months later. Yeah, it's like if I read it when it first came out and had to wait for the second, like I'd probably just be like, okay, that was kind of a. I think we talked about this at the end of the first book.
We probably did.
Like
yeah.
we've like it was a good book, but by the end of it, it's like I feel like some things could have been condensed and like streamlined here and there, and made this book a bit tighter. So yeah, like reading it in isolation might not have been as good as like reading it like and immediately being able to jump into the next one.
Fair.
Yeah, like I agreed. When we went into Mistborn Era 1, it was like, oh, book 1 is kind of standalone and it's all good. And I felt like going into it thinking that it would neatly wrap up everything we were looking to wrap up. It didn't do that. But again, like knowing that there's so much more Stormlight, I think we were more at peace with the stuff that didn't get resolved in book 1 because we knew it's part of a much bigger story. But yeah, like if you were to pick up that book and there was no other book straight away, you might go, what the hell? Like not having an idea of what was the bigger picture of the Cosmere. I think now having read so much of Brandon's work as we have, it's all a big picture. So we kind of know, yeah, look, it didn't get answered, but chances are he's thought about it and there's an answer coming. We just need to hang on a little bit longer and see where that goes.
Yeah, we've built some trust at this point, and so we can give him a little slack on that. Yeah, that makes sense. And there's so many big Cosmere wide questions that on some level you're like, I can allow the smaller questions specific to this planet to take some time to get answered because we've waited all of the books for answer to some of these even bigger questions. Okay, Kat, you're
I'll throw in as well. Even in isolation, I think Way of Kings had a more satisfactory ending to its various plot points than Warbreaker did.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that we might feel that way. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and now I'm wondering to myself, is that because we knew Way of Kings had immediate sequels, whereas like Warbreaker, whether or not it's intended to have them, doesn't have them yet. So we might have felt like it was meant to be more standalone, and then we got to the end and like, what the fuck? So yeah. Who knows at this point?
Fair. Okay. Well, let's move into some other bits of housekeeping here. We got a couple new patrons, so Joe, you can grab your list of those. And in the meantime, let's read a couple of emails. The first one we have is from Eldred, and it's quite a short one here, but it's fun. It says "Baby Break Joke" is the title. Hope this is not in bad taste. Feel free to ignore if it feels wrong. But when I heard about Baby Break 3, the first thing that came to my mind was a red versus blue line that always made me laugh.
Oh, I know exactly what he's talking about too.
My name is Michael J. Caboose, and I hate babies.
Yep.
I, of course, say this only in jest and wish you all the best and look forward to your return. Classic red versus blue.
Oh, a long time ago, I had the I Hate Babies shirt.
Yes, I did too.
Yeah.
It's weird to wear.
It was not a popular one.
Yeah, no.
Again, I only ever wore it in jest, but
and really, I had several red versus blue shirts once upon a time, and many of them, when you walk outside wearing them, it's like, what the hell? Like people don't know about that as much as I might have thought, given that I was immersed in the culture of the forums and stuff there. So I knew all sorts of stuff about red versus blue, but most people do not. So I had the black shirt that just said evil on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so that's always fun. Man, the really old school red versus blue shirts that were just like colors with a few words on them. Those were fun. Did you guys see the Rooster Teeth news?
Oh, Bernie bought it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
I haven't watched it in a long time, so I gather they had 8 final season, but if they bought it back, maybe they're going to do more. I don't know.
Is he going to reopen the company and give all those people their jobs back?
Well, right now he said it's just him and Ashley, his wife, and he actually specifically called out to people like, don't go and bother like all of the old staff members about like, hey, you should go back to the company. Like, there's discussions happening and some of them might be, but I don't want people like bugging them. It seems like he bought the rights to some of the stuff that fell into Rooster Teeth back from WB. I'm sure for a song now that, it all got shuttered. Like, what are they going to do with them? What I read was there were like 4 specific things, like the RT podcast, Red versus Blue, and like Camp, and maybe one other thing. I forget.
Red versus Blue and RT podcast always made them money, so that would make sense. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of Camp. I'm not a big.
Actually, it's like a cartoon that they made about like kids at a summer camp. It's kind of fun. I liked it actually. Which I didn't like a lot of stuff that they did in the last few years, but that was pretty fun.
Yeah, their business model in the last few years before they closed kind of wasn't.
Yeah, because they got sold. They sold to WB, and WB is corporate, and yeah, it just it didn't work. He did like a press release that was like, we're gonna take this back to the roots, to what really matters, the fans. And I was like, I mean, you weren't thinking about the fans that much when you like trashed the forums and went and did all your chatting on Reddit because it was easier and you didn't have to pay to maintain or whatever. Like, it feels a little disingenuous to me, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Well, hadn't he left by that point?
Did all that money? Yes. Before the company closed, he and Ashley moved to like Japan or something, and they were like, yeah, we're getting out of here, because he didn't like the direction that things had taken. So I'm wondering, like, did all that money that you made start running out, and now you're like, hey,
I doubt
hey guys, remember how great this was? Give me money.
I doubt it. I bet he has lots of money still.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. The next email is from Bernardo, and it is called True Glory. And it says, hey, Data. Hope the break went well and the crew managed to get some rest. Yeah, new baby. I'm sure you guys got lots of rest, right?
I mean, everyone sleeps for now.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, when you get to the True Glory chapter, are you going to bring up the death rattle from, I think, the first book that predicts Kaladin and Shallan emerging from the chasm? I did do that. This, like the previous one of Kaladin jumping over the chasm and absorbing stormlight from the beards of the Parshendi, which I mentioned in a previous email, is one of my favorite death rattles because they show us that some of the seemingly random death rattles that we can actually see being applied to a situation are later on as a prediction. Well, shit, I just got to the point in the episode in which you read out the death rattle to the crew. I guess that makes this whole message redundant. I'll send it anyway, just to say thank you for the amazing podcast and the consistently funny episodes. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the book. Because, yes, it was in the episode before we left that I read that off because I didn't want to forget when we got to the actual chapter. So when I was like, hey, this chapter is called True Glory, I read that off just so that I wouldn't forget to do it. Let's do one more email. We're not, these haven't been too terribly long. This one's from Robbie. Hi, I recently discovered you guys and I've been binging the episodes. It's been nice to think about other Cosmere books after Wind and Truth came out. I'm a few episodes into Well of Ascension now, and I've got a question for you guys regarding the reading order. Since you guys have read The Lost Metal and know a lot more about the Ghostbloods, particularly Kelsier's involvement, than you're supposed to if you're following publication order, how do you think you'd be reacting to them if this was your first introduction to Stormlight? Anyway, I look forward to hearing your reactions to the other Cosmere books once I get there. Considering how much you love Spook, I'm sure you're going to be so happy to see him in Hero of Ages and semi-deified in Era 2. Cheers from Robbie. So how do you think you would have felt about the Ghostbloods if this was your first exposure to them?
Yeah, these are always like the tougher questions, right? It's like because I can't go back and unknow what I know,
Right.
or even like make my mind bend in a way that's like, huh. But if I had to take a stab at it, I mean, I guess I would think we only know as much about them as Shallan knows, right? So it's like
Mhm.
it's just a mysterious group with this one lady who's creepy and that one guy who's super intimidating,
And they're
and
pretty bloodthirsty.
yeah, and they're pretty bloodthirsty. That's about as much exposure as we've had. So I don't know what other kind of things we could think of. I mean, I guess we could make predicaments about them, like as if our knowledge of them was less, but that seems like a whole thing that I don't want to do with my brain.
Yeah, fair. I like trying to make my brain do these weird things, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I was just like, man, these guys seem pretty messed up. I don't know what to make of them. I don't know what they're up to. And as we pointed out, there's a lot of secret societies on this planet, so we probably just assume that's just another one of those trying to save the world somehow, I guess, since that's what the rest of them seem to be doing.
You think if Kelsier is in charge, we've had debates about whether Kelsier is actually in charge of these people, this sect of Ghostbloods, how separate they are from whatever else. You think that he's out to save Roshar?
It depends on what saving Roshar would accomplish. I think I said it once before. If Kelsier had to sacrifice Roshar to save Scadrial, he would do it without a second thought.
Which is weird, right? Because it's like, what's so great about your planet compared to all these other ones in this giant wide universe?
All his stuff is there.
Yeah, all my stuff.
Yeah, you're pretty much the same. Like, realistically, we would have just seen a group. I think maybe it would have affected how we saw the Ghostbloods on Scadrial. It would have been like, oh my god, like, because at first it would be like the reaction we had on Scadrial, wouldn't it? It's like, oh, who are these guys? Really, it's really piqued our interest here because we've heard the name before.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is that it's not just a different reaction, but it's like when it first comes up here, you might not have been as interested if we hadn't already heard it, and you were like, oh wait, we know these guys. We've heard something about this. Like, there were lots of Ghostblood related theories and stuff because of how relevant we knew they were elsewhere. So yeah, it might not have created that much of a stir at all until we got to, the point where Shallan finally meeting them and stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right, let's do patrons, and then we can wrap up. Let me bring up the list. So we have 3 new patrons this week. If I can find where I left, which window are you in? There you are. The first one at the ska level is Avery.
Avery, you are a wind whisperer. You store senses.
Ooh, nice. I like that one. It's because it's there's so many different things you can.
Yeah. Oh, you got 5 senses you can store.
Yeah. Some of us have 6 or 7, but
Wait, what?
You don't have the 6th sense? You can't see ghosts?
No. Also, that's a dumb 6th sense. It doesn't make sense for it to be the 6th sense.
Oh, you could store your ability to see ghosts, and then when you tap it, you can see even more ghosts.
Yeah. The ghosts are more corporeal. I can see them better.
You can like high five them and stuff. They're more real. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I might be down with that. They're not all creepy and oozy like in that movie.
It could be like the show Ghosts, which is a fun show. I think they're doing an Australian version of that, I heard. Or a German one, maybe both. I don't know. It's a weird show. It's the kind of show that you could do in lots of different places. Anyway, sorry. Once again, tangent. Our second new patron at the ska level is Matt.
Matt, you're a sparker. You explore that mental speed.
Nice. Save it up for test day,
Yeah.
And then
cutie.
At the misting level is Brian.
Brian, for being such an awesome misting, you can be a brute. You store physical strength.
Nice one. I don't think you've done that one in a bit.
Brute, yeah. It's not my favorite, but I think it is kind of cool because you get all buff.
Yeah. Just bulk up.
Yeah. It doesn't look like you skipped leg day or anything.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't skip leg day. Exactly. Yep. All right. Well, if you'd like to send us an email, like some of these folks did, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky and Patreon, where you can check out my chapter by chapter reactions as I'm reading Wind and Truth for the first time. Although if everything went as I planned, you will have heard my overall reactions to Wind and Truth last week. So, if that's good enough for you, you don't need to sign up for the Patreon at the moment, unless you want to see all the other books I've reacted to. All the new books as they come out. I'm sure that you don't hear me talk enough on this podcast. You want to listen to me for hours more. Who wouldn't? So check out our Patreon if you're interested in that. Thank you to all of our patrons, all the new ones and the ones of old who have been, I almost said mistings, who have been fairings for a long time now. We appreciate you. Thanks to everybody, the people on our Discord who chatted up, and you guys who just come every week and listen. We appreciate you all. Remember, we're doing just 2 chapters for next time, chapters 81 and 82. If you're following along, read those 2. Music by Miracle of Sound, and Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fasher. Crabs ahoy!
Amicia, you forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain. You're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.